بيان حكم القتال الذي حصل بين الإمام علي ومعاوية. Clarification of the judgment of the fighting that took place between Imam Ali and Muawiyah. وأن معاوية ومن معه بغوا, and that Muawiyah and who was with him transgressed. The Shaykh says, may Allah have mercy upon him. وروى البخاري في صحيحه. Al-Bukhari narrated in his authentic book, عن أبي وائل, from the route of Abu Wa'il, أنه قال, that he said, قال Abdullah, Abdullah said, قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, أنا فرطكم على الحوض, I am the one who gets to the basin on Judgment Day before you and leads the way for you to get to the basin. لا يرفعن إلي رجال منكم, and there shall indeed be presented to me men from amongst you, O companions of mine. حتى إذا أهويت لأناولهم, until when I want to give them access. Slight paraphrase in the translation. Uhtuliju duni, they shall be swept away from me. Fa'akul, and then I will say, Ay Rabb, O Lord, ashabi, my companions. Yaqulu la tadri ma ahdathu ba'dak. God says to me, you do not know what they have innovated after you. قال عصري وقال عصرينا الشيخ عبد الله الغماري. Our contemporary Sheikh Abdullah al-Ghumari said, ما نصه, quote, مع أننا نجزم بأنه في معاوية وأصحابه. We are definitive, he's speaking about himself here, that this hadith is about Muawiyah and his companions. That's al-Ghumari speaking here. He passed away, rahimahullah ta'ala, and maybe he was a mujtahid. ممن حارب الإمام الحق. Muawiyah and his cohorts who fought the right Imam. وخرج عليه, and rebelled against him. وفعل الأفاعيل, and did the bad things. Al-Ghumari says, فإنما حدث به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Indeed, anything that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam told, لا يلام أحد على روايته, no one is blamed for narrating it. Now, that's a general statement. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam did say in another hadith, كفى بالمرء كذبا أن يحدث بكل ما سمع. It's enough of a lie for a person to say everything that he heard. Yani, a person should be wise and put things in their proper places and not say anything that he heard under any circumstance, no matter the audience, no matter what. No. So Al-Ghumari's statement here doesn't deny that. But he's saying, like what we've been saying throughout all these sessions, لا يلام أحد على روايته. Nobody is blamed for narrating a hadith of the Prophet. No one is blamed for saying what the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. بل يلام على تركه وتضييعه. Rather, one would be blamed for abandoning what the Prophet said and squandering what the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam. والمقصود أن الشافعي فهم أن الحديث في معاوية وأصحابه لا في المرتدين. Al-Ghumari says, what's meant here is that Ash-Shafi'i, in the statement that I didn't translate for you, he understood that this hadith is about Muawiyah and his cohorts, not about the apostates. Intaha, end quote. قلت, our Shaykh says, I say, هذا الحديث صحيح, this hadith is authentic, وهو في المرتدين, and it is about the apostates. وَلَيْسَ فِي أَهْلِ صِفِّينَ, it's not about the people of Siffin. It's not about Muawiyah and his colleagues and his cohorts. So Shaykh doesn't agree with Al-Ghumari, but what did he do? He still logged what Al-Ghumari said. He still informed you about Al-Ghumari's take on the hadith. Al-Ghumari saw that this hadith applies to Muawiyah and those who fought with him against Ali. Our Shaykh says, أما الخوارج فإنه ينطبق عليهم. But concerning the Khawarij, this hadith is applicable to them. Because Imam Ali fought three groups. The Khawarij were one of those three. So you already know, because you've been studying, inshallah, that Ali fought the people of Al-Basra. That's the army that had Talha and Az-Zubayr and Aisha, though Aisha didn't come out to fight. And he fought the people of Siffin, that's Muawiyah and his army. And he fought the people of Nahrawan, those were the Khawarij. The Shaykh says, Rahimahullah, وَأَمَّا حَدِيث سَتَكُونُ لِأَصْحَابِ زَلَّةٍ يَغْفِرُهَا اللَّهُ لَهُمْ. Concerning the hadith, my companions shall have a slip. Allah will forgive it for them. فَهَذَا حَدِيثٌ غَيْرُ ثَابِتٍ. This is a hadith that's not confirmed. This is an unconfirmed hadith. وَلَا يُحْتَجُّ بِهِ للادعاء بأن معاوية ومن معه كانوا غير آثمين بقتالهم. And it cannot be submitted as evidence for the claim that Muawiyah and whoever was with him were not sinful for their fighting. لأنه لو كان ثابتا, because this hadith, had it been confirmed, ويدخل فيه معاوية, and had it been inclusive of Muawiyah, لدل على أنه عصى, it would have still proven that he sinned. لأنه حينئذ يكون قوله يغفره الله لهم, because upon that, when the Prophet said, if this were authentic, Allah will forgive it for them, دليلا على أنه أذنب, that would be proof that they committed a sin. So person will take this unconfirmed hadith, number one, unconfirmed. Then number two, will gaslight you, as they say, yani, to try to make it not look like it really is. Had this been a confirmed hadith, it would still be proving our point. That's how someone will argue with you. And that's how, if you're not paying attention, you're not going to even see how what they're using as a proof against you is a proof against them and doesn't even harm you. This hadith in its wording is not against us, but it's not an authentic hadith. Had it been authentic, it would still be a proof on our side. فالاحتجاج بهذا الحديث لمعاوية يفسد القول بأنه وجماعته مأجورون. And so arguing by this hadith for Muawiyah actually ruins the saying that he and his group were rewarded. Because the hadith is saying they have a zallah, a slip, that Allah will forgive for them. According to that, means they were wrong and Allah, they were sinful and Allah will forgive them. فإن قيل, so if it were said, كيف يصح أن يقال في معاوية إنه بغى هو وجماعته? How could it be valid or correct that it be said that Muawiyah transgressed, he and his group, وقد صح أنه من كتبة الوحي, while it is authenticated, it is verified that he was one of the scribes of revelation. That's frequent argument they make. He was one of the scribes. فالجواب, and the answer is, so take note of this one, أن ذلك لا يقتضي أن يكون تقيا صالحا, that this does not dictate that he would be a pious man and a God-fearing man. Being one of the scribes doesn't dictate that he would be a pious, God-fearing person. وهذا لا يقوله إلا من لا اطلاع له على ما صح من الحديث. And no one would say this. No one would make this argument, but someone who has no acquaintance with what's authentic amongst the hadiths. وما قال علماء السيرة. And he has no acquaintance with what the scholars of the prophetic biography have said. فهكما قال الحافظ العراقي في ألفيته التي ألفها في السيرة. So here is what Hafiz al-Iraqi said in his millennial poem that he authored about the prophetic biography. Not his millennial poem about hadith terminology, a different one. في باب ذكر كتابه صلى الله عليه وسلم, in the chapter about mentioning his scribes صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال العراقي said وذكروا ثلاثة قد كتبوا وارتد كل منهم وانقلبوا ابن أبي سرح مع ابن خطلي وآخر أبهم لم يسم لي ولم يعد منهم إلى الدين سوى ابن أبي سرح وباقيهم غوى. This means, and they have mentioned, the scholars have mentioned, three who were scribes. All of them committed apostasy. We're not even saying Muawiyah committed apostasy, but someone's going to argue with you. He was a scribe. So that doesn't prove anything for you. That doesn't give you any argument. They mentioned three scribes. All of them committed apostasy and turned. Who are they? Ibn Abi Sarh with Ibn Khatal and another who was ambiguously mentioned. He was not named for me, Al-Iraqi says. I don't have a name for him. And none of them returned to the religion except Ibn Abi Sarh, and the rest of them went astray. So the point is, when they say, but Muawiyah was a scribe, so you say, how does that argument work for these three? Does it work for them? They were scribes. So we'll say these three were scribes, those who committed apostasy. Now, when you say Muawiyah was a scribe, so whatever you're saying about him because of being a scribe should be applicable to them because of being scribes. So does it work for them? No? Then it doesn't work for you either. فهذا الحافظ العراقي يصرح في أن ثلاثة ممن كتبوا لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ارتدوا. So here is Hafiz al-Iraqi explicitly mentioning that three of those who were scribes of the Messenger of God, may peace and blessings be upon him, committed apostasy. اثنان منهم ماتا على الكفر. Two of them died on blasphemy. وواحد رجع إلى الإسلام. And one of them came back to Islam. فالذي رجع إلى الإسلام هو ابن أبي سرح. The one who came back to Islam is Ibn Abi Sarh. واللذان ماتا على الكفر. And those two who died upon blasphemy, أحدهما ابن خطل. One of them is Ibn Khatal. والآخر لم يسم. And the other one was not named. When the Sahaba reported this issue, they didn't name him. We'll see. ولكن ذكر قصته أنس بن مالك. But Anas ibn Malik mentioned his story. روى ذلك مسلم وابن حبان. Muslim and Ibn Hibban narrated that. ففي صحيح ابن حبان عن أنس أنه قال. For in Ibn Hibban's authentic book from the route of Anas, he said, كان رجل يكتب للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. There was a man who used to write for the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. ثم ارتد عن الإسلام, and then he committed apostasy from Islam. فلحق بالمشركين, and then he went to the pagans. He caught up to the pagans. Yani he ran away from the Muslims and he went to catch up with the pagans. ثم مات, and then he died. فبلغ ذلك النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, and that reached the Prophet. May peace and blessings be upon him. فقال, and so he said, إن الأرض لن تقبله. Indeed, the earth will not accept him. قال فقال أبو طلحة. He said, Abu Talha said, فأتيت تلك الأرض التي مات فيها. I went to that land where that man died. وقد علمت أن الذي قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كما قال فوجدته منبوذا. And I knew about that one, about whom the messenger of God, may peace and blessings be upon him, spoke. And I found him ejected from the earth. Yani, I found him upon the surface, on the ground, ejected from the earth after being buried. فقلت ما شأن هذا? So I said, what's up with this guy? What's the case of this one? فقالوا, they said, دفناه, we buried him. فلم تقبله الأرض, and the earth did not accept him. انتهى. End quote. وذكر مثل ذلك ابن سيد الناس. And Ibn Sayyid al-Nas mentioned the likes of this في كتابه عيون الأثر, in his book called عيون الأثر باب كتابه صلى الله عليه وسلم, in the chapter of the Prophet's scribes. May peace and blessings be upon him. وروى مسلم في صحيحه عن أنس بن مالك. And also Muslim narrated in his authentic book from the route of Anas ibn Malik أنه قال, that he said, كان منا رجل من بني النجار. There was amongst us a man from the clan of Najjar. قد قرأ البقرة وآل عمران. This man took Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Al Imran. وكان يكتب لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And he used to write for the messenger of God, may peace and blessings be upon him. فانطلق هاربا, and then he ran away. حتى لحق بأهل الكتاب, until he caught up with the people of the book. قال, he said, فَرَفَعُوهُ, and they made an example of him. قالوا هذا كان يكتب لمحمد. They said, this one here who came to us, he was one of Muhammad's scribes. فَأُعْجِبُوا بِهِ, so everyone was impressed with him. فَمَا لَبِثَ أَنْ قَسَمَ اللَّهُ عُنُقَهُ فِيهِمْ, and he didn't last long before Allah made his neck break in their midst, while he was in their midst. So here, قَسَمَ اللَّهُ عُنُقَهُ, it means in a literal sense, Allah broke his neck. قَسَمَ, it means to break apart, to make the pieces separate from each other. But what I found in the Hadith explanation books is that it means Allah made him die. So I don't have any details there between what those Hadith explanation books say and what's the literal meaning of qasama. So if I just translate it literally, فَمَا لَبِثَ أَنْ قَسَمَ اللَّهُ عُنُقَهُ فِيهِمْ, and he didn't last long before Allah broke his neck while he was in their midst. فَحَفَرُوا لَهُ. So they dug a grave for him. فَوَارَوْهُ. And they buried him, they covered him with the dirt. فَأَصْبَحَتِ الْأَرْضُ قَدْ نَبَذَتْهُ عَلَى وَجْهِهَا. And the earth, the ground, wound up spitting him out up to its surface. ثُمَّ عَادُوا. And then they went back. فَحَفَرُوا لَهُ. And they dug another grave for him. فَوَارَوْهُ. And then they covered him again. فَأَصْبَحَتِ الْأَرْضُ قَدْ نَبَذَتْهُ عَلَى وَجْهِهَا. And the earth spit him out upon its surface. ثُمَّ عَادُوا. And then they went back. فَحَفَرُوا لَهُ. And they dug again for him. فَوَارَوْهُ. And they covered him. فَأَصْبَحَتِ الْأَرْضُ قَدْ نَبَذَتْهُ عَلَى وَجْهِهَا. And the earth spit him out upon its surface. فَتَرَكُوهُ مَنْبُوذًا. So they left him ejected. They didn't try to bury him anymore. Intaha, end quote. So that one was a scribe of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. So when someone says to you, Muawiyah was a scribe, you tell them this doesn't help you, this doesn't give you any point at all. And it's not the point just to come down on Muawiyah. Now the point here is really just debunking your claims because you're fighting the truth. So when you say Muawiyah was a scribe, does that also work for this guy too? Whatever you were trying to prove by that, does it work here? If it doesn't work here, it doesn't work there also. فإن كان الشخص لا يكون معصوما من الكفر لمجرد أنه كان من كتبة الوحي. Sheikh says, if a person is not infallible, is not divinely protected from blasphemy by merely being a scribe of the revelation, فكيف يكون معصوما مما هو دون الكفر? How would he then be divinely protected from what's less than kufr? If he could commit kufr, then he could commit something less than kufr. So there's no proof in arguing the fact that Muawiyah was one of the scribes. وقد ثبت أن معاوية كما سبق وذكرنا كان يأمر بسب علي. And it was confirmed that Muawiyah, as previously mentioned, used to command for Ali to be insulted. وهو أحد السابقين الأولين من المهاجرين والأنصار. Although Ali is one of the first and prior amongst the immigrants and the supporters from Medina. وَأَحَدُ الْعَشَرَةِ الْمُبَشَّرِينَ بِالْجَنَّةِ. And he is one of the 10 who got the glad tidings of going to heaven. وَقَدْ قَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, سِبَابُ الْمُسْلِمِ فُسُوقُ وَقِتَالُهُ كُفْرٌ. Insulting the Muslim is a major sin, and fighting him is kufr. That means it's ugly like kufr. It's a very heinous sin, but it's not kufr that takes you out of Islam. Fighting a Muslim is not a kufr that takes you out of Islam. It's a kufr though, because the Prophet said so. Because there's two types of kufr. There's a major kufr and a minor kufr. Minor kufr is a sin that's called kufr to compare it to kufr, to compare it to blasphemy. Though it's not blasphemy, it is a heinous major sin. The Shaykh is saying this applies to Muawiyah. So if someone would say, why are you saying that about Muawiyah? Then you might say to him, before you ask me that, is it true or it's not true? And then we can discuss whether it should be said or it's not or not said. Is it true or it's not true? Then after you tell me whether it's true or it's not true, then we can discuss whether it should be said or not said. Now, Muawiyah, he passed away. Now, though, you are upholding something that's false. So we are going to crush your arguments. It's not a matter of coming at Muawiyah at this point here. وَقَالَ فِي حَقِّ عَلِي. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said concerning Ali, مَنْ سَبَّ عَلِيًّا فَقَدْ سَبَّنِي. Anyone who insulted Ali has insulted me. Al-Hadith, etc. رواه أحمد والحاكم وغيرهما. That hadith is narrated by Ahmad and Al-Hakim and others. والحاصل أن الذي يظن أن كل فرد من أفراد الصحابة تقي ولي. The synopsis is that anyone who thought or anyone who thinks that every individual companion is a God-fearing saint, كأنه ليس عنده خبر بأحوال من صحب رسول الله, then it's like this one has no information about the situations, the various situations of who accompanied the messenger of God. وَلَيْسَ لَهُ إِلْمَامٌ بِالْحَدِيثِ. And it's as if he has no acquaintance with the hadiths. But is that the case? For some of them, yes. You have two groups here. Those who, this is exactly their case. They have no information about the cases of the companions, and they have no acquaintance with the hadiths. So they just say whatever their sheikhs told them to say. They're just parrots. And another group, they know these hadiths and they hide them. Sheikh says, فَلَوْ سَكَتَ عَنْ ذَلِكَ كَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. So had this speaker been silent about this, that would be better for him. وَقَدْ قَالَ اللَّهُ. Allah said, وَلَا تَقُفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. Do not pursue that about which you have no knowledge. That's the 36th verse of Surah Al-Isra. So that's Sheikh getting on this speaker's case. You don't even know about the cases of the companions. You have no acquaintance with the hadiths. Had you shut your mouth, it would have been better for you. Allah Ta'ala tells us that He forbids us from pursuing what we do not know. From going after, talking about what we have no knowledge about. وليس هذا من حب الصحابة الذين أمرنا بحبهم. And this behavior that such a speaker displays is not the love of the companions, those companions whom we were commanded to love. This is not the way to love them. لأنه ليس معنى ذلك التسوية بينهم, because the command to love the companions does not mean to deem all of them equal. فقد صح عنه صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال. It is authentic from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he said, ما أظن فلانا وفلانا يعرفان من ديننا شيئا. I don't think that Fulan and Fulan know anything about our religion. Rawahu al-Bukhari. Al-Bukhari narrated that. That's the Prophet speaking about some of his companions. I don't think that so-and-so and so-and-so know anything about our religion. So what you're going to say about them? You're going to say, but those are companions. No, say what the Prophet said about them. فَائِدَةٌ مُهِمَّةٌ. Important benefit. قال الحافظ أحمد الغماري في كتابه جؤنة العطار. Hafiz Ahmad al-Ghumari, that's the brother of Abdullah al-Ghumari that we already mentioned. He said in his book, جؤنة العطار, ما نصه, quote, نقل الذهبي في التاريخ عن الإمام مالك أنه قال. الذهبي logged in his history book that Imam Malik said, إن معاوية نتف الشيب كذا وكذا سنة. Indeed, Muawiyah was plucking the white hairs for so many years. وَكَانَ يَخْرُجُ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ وَرِدَاؤُهُ يُحْمَلُ. He used to go out to pray. He used to go out for the prayer while he had goons, henchmen, who would carry his rida. Like he has someone who holds up his clothing for him. It's like he's a king. فَإِذَا دَخَلَ مُصَلَّاهُ جُعِلَ عَلَيْهِ. And then when he would take his prayer place, it would be put upon him. وَذَلِكَ مِنَ الْكِبْرِ. And this behavior is a display of arrogance. That's what's narrated about Malik, this Imam Malik. وَذَلِكَ مِنَ الْكِبْرِ. That's a display of arrogance. Intaha, end quote. وهذا يكذب ما نقل عنه من قوله غبار حافر فرس معاوية أفضل من عمر بن عبد العزيز. This report about Malik contradicts what was logged about him. That he said the dust from Muawiyah's horse's hoof is greater than Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. That is extremism. That's fanaticism, because Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, number one, he's a believer. So this is comparing a believer to dust, status-wise. The status of a believer versus the status of dust. And not any dust. What dust is this? The dust of Muawiyah's horse's foot. So number one, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz is a believer. It's not valid then to say that this dust from a horse foot is greater than a believer. Didn't Allah say, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ خَيْرُ الْبَرِيَّةِ. Indeed, those who believed and did good deeds, those are the best of creation. So how could this believer, this one who believed and did good deeds, not be better than dust? That's one. Two, he was a caliph. Three, he was a tabi'i. Four, he was a scholar. Five, he was a saint. So someone will tell you, don't you know that some scholars said that the dust from the horse of Muawiyah, the dust of Muawiyah's horse's foot is better than Umar bin Abdul Aziz. What we learned is that that's kufr to say that. That's kufr. It's against the ayah. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ خَيْرُ الْبَرِيَّةِ. Indeed, those who believed and did good deeds, they are the best of creation. وَرُبَّمَا نَقَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ هَذَا عَنْ ابْنِ الْمُبَارَكِ. And maybe some of them would log this about Ibn al-Mubarak. وَكُلُّهُ كَذِبٍ. All of that is a lie. وَإِذَا وَصَفَ مَالِكٌ مُعَاوِيَةَ بِالْكِبْرِ وَهُوَ يَعْلَمُ الْحَدِيثَ الصَّحِيحِ. And if it's the case that Malik described Muawiyah with arrogance, while knowing the authentic hadith, while Malik knows the authentic hadith, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال حبة خردل من كبر. Not entering the garden with the first groups who do enter is anyone who has in his heart a mustard seed's weight of arrogance. A mustard seed's weight of arrogance. Very severe sin, that arrogance. It's feared that someone who has arrogance in his heart will die as a kafir. Subhanallah. Al-Mukharraja fi Sahih Muslim. This hadith, which is produced in Muslim's authentic book, فلا يجوز أن يقول ذلك في عمر بن عبد العزيز. Then it's not permissible that one would say, or that Malik says, then it's not permissible that Malik said this claim about Muawiyah's horse's foot, the dust from his horse's foot. It's not permissible that Malik would have said this about Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, that dust is greater than Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, because Malik is saying, according to what Al-Dhahabi logged, that Muawiyah was arrogant. So how's his horse going to be so great? And then how's the dust of his horse going to be so great? Intaha kalamul Ghumari. That's the end of the discourse of Al-Ghumari. وبعض الناس إذا رأوا هذا البيان والإيضاح الذي أوردناه. And some people, if they saw this clarification and this clarity or elaboration that we have produced, والذي هو الموافق للحق, this clarification which is compliant with the truth, يقولون, they say, هذا الكلام لا ينبغي إطلاع العامة عليه. They say this talk, this discussion, this subject, the layman should not see it. هذا للخصوص فقط. This is for the specialists only. Keep this out of the hands of the layman. يقال لهم, it would be said to them, those who are trying to bury their mistake here. المحدثون فيما مضى ما كانوا حين يقرؤون كتب الحديث بما فيها حديث ويح عمار يخصصون الكبار والخواص بالإسماع دون الصغار. The hadith scholars in the past, when they would read the hadith books with their inclusion of the hadith, those hadith books that include the hadith, the likes of the hadith, woe is Ammar, they did not used to reserve that for the elites and the specialists to hear, and not the small ones or the children, as-sigar. بل كان المحدث يقرأ جهرا. Rather, the hadith scholar would recite openly. Yani what they used to do, they used to have sessions where the scholar would narrate the hadith. Yani, it's not so much like our time now. There's so much ignorance. We need to be teaching obligatory knowledge and things like that. Those scholars of hadith would have sessions. The masjids would be full. All the commoners, yani the scholars too, would come. And the commoners, like if you were there, you would want to go. And you would go and listen to them reading the hadith books. And they would just be reading all of what's in there. And you're going to take the book by talaqqi. كان المحدث يقرأ جهرا. The hadith scholar would read the hadith books out loud. وَيُسْمِعُ الْكِبَارَ وَالصِّغَارِ. He would make the adults and the children hear the hadith books. وَقَدْ كَانَ مِنْ عَادَةِ أَهْلِ الْحَدِيثِ فِي الْمَوْضِعِ إِحْضَارُ الصِّغَارِ. And it was the norm, the habit of the people of hadith in the past to make the children attend. إِحْضَارُ صِغَارِ مَجَالِسَهُمْ مَعَ الْكِبَارِ. It was their habit to bring the children and let them be present in the sessions with the adults. حتى إنهم كانوا يحضرون أبناء الخمس سنوات. They would even bring 5-year-old children to the hadith sessions. فهذه الأحاديث ما دونت في كتب الحديث لتدفن. So these hadiths, they were not recorded in the hadith books to be buried. That's something we've been repeating over and over and over again, because that's really what those people are getting at. Whether they come out and say it like here, what the Sheikh is saying, or whether they say everything that leads to that. Like when they say, those who are Sahaba, we don't talk about this. These matters, we are silent about them. Better for you to shut your mouth and not to slander the Sahaba. That's all gaslighting. No one's slandering the Sahaba. They call narrating hadiths and explaining proper judgment, slandering the Sahaba because they're saying a wrong judgment and they don't want you to prove them wrong. بل لتعلم للكبير والصغير. Rather, those hadiths were recorded in the hadith books to be taught to the adult and to the child. فأي عيب في معرفة الحق للصغير والكبير. So what's the problem with a child knowing the truth and an adult knowing the truth? تنبيه. Notice. ادعى بعض الجهلة أننا نسب معاوية والصحابة. Some ignoramuses claim that we insult Muawiyah and the companions. وهذا غير صحيح. And this is untrue. إنما الأمر أننا نبين حقيقة ما جرى بين علي رضي الله عنه ومعاوية. Merely the issue is that we are clarifying the reality of what happened between Ali, may Allah have mercy upon him, or may Allah accept from him, and Muawiyah. وَذَلِكَ بِإِيرَادِ الْأَدِلَّةِ وَالْأَحَادِيثِ. And that's by producing the proofs and the hadiths. فَكَيْفَ بَعْدْ يعني. Had those people not been saying the wrong saying, we wouldn't have had to go this far. What they're calling insulting Muawiyah and insulting the Sahaba, the Shaykh went this far and this deep because of their insisting on a blunder in the first place. Had they been silent from saying the wrong judgment, then we would have been able to afford being silent about these details. فكيف بعد هذا يرموننا بأننا نشتم معاوية. So how would it be after all of this that they accuse us of insulting Muawiyah? وتغافلوا عن أمر, while they were heedless about a fact. وهو أن معاوية هو الذي كان يأمر بسب علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله عنه الخليفة الراشد, which was that Muawiyah, he was the one who was commanding for Ali ibn Abi Talib to be insulted, the guided caliph, وابن عم رسول الله, and the cousin of the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which means he's from Ahlul Bayt, وزوج ابنته فاطمة الزهراء, and the husband of his daughter Fatima, radiyallahu anha, may Allah accept from her, وأحد العشرة المبشرين بالجنة, and one of the 10 who got the good news of going to heaven. ورابع الخلفاء الراشدين, and the fourth of the guided caliphs. وأحد السابقين الأولين, and one of the first and forerunning prior ones. وفضائله كثيرة, and his merits are many. وَمَنَاقِبُهُ شَهِيرًا, and his reports of his merits are famous. Yani, why mention here that Muawiyah used to command for Ali to be insulted? Because they are saying, you are wrongdoers for saying what you are saying because you are insulting Muawiyah. And that's haram because he's a Sahabi. So that's your judgment. So what's your judgment then? Yeah, you might say that's a major sin. I'll say, yeah, major sin. So, okay. So what's your judgment then about Muawiyah who commanded for Ali to be insulted? He's going to say, no, he didn't do it. But we already produced the hadiths about that. Yes, he did. He did do that. So what's the judgment then, according to you? What's the judgment of the one who insults the Sahaba, according to you? Maybe he'll say, you don't agree? Yeah, it's haram. You can't insult the Sahaba. But we're not doing that. But here's case, this one, he did that. It's confirmed. So what do you say? What is he going to say? He's going to say, we don't talk about this. This is not the way. This is not the religion to go like that. That's the way of the weaklings and the arrogant ones. It's feared for the one who's arrogant that he's going to have a bad ending. Subhanallah. I remember when I first heard about that it's feared for the one who's arrogant that he'd have a bad ending. And it didn't register for me. Okay, the wise ones, they know better. But I didn't really see why. Arrogance is a sin like other sins. But now I see why. After dealing with people on so many subjects, not just this. Because when a person's arrogant, he's not going to accept the truth. He's going to reject the truth. That's going to take him down the wrong way. You give him a hadith, he's going to throw the hadith back to you. You give him an ayah, he's going to twist its meaning because he's arrogant. That's why. So it's feared for the one who's arrogant that he's going to have a bad ending. May Allah spare us from arrogance. Ameen. The Shaykh says, أَلَمْ يَكُنْ مُعَاوِيَةُ يَأْمُرُ بِسَبِّ عَلِيٍّ عَلَى الْمَنَابِرِ. Wasn't Muawiyah commanded for Ali to be insulted upon the mimbars, the pulpits? Yes, the answer is yes to that. Or Bala, rather, Alam. Wasn't he? The answer is Bala, indeed. We already gave the proofs for that. They're going to deny that, though. وَسَرَتْ هَذِهِ الْبِدْعَةُ الْقَبِيحَةُ مُدَّةً بَعْدَهُ. And this ugly innovation went on for some time after him. Yani, some people, they did that. They made it their practice and their custom to insult Ali upon the pulpits. إلى أن جاء الخليفة عمر بن عبد العزيز رضي الله عنه فأبطلها. Until the Caliph Umar ibn Abdul Aziz came and he abolished this ugly practice. So Sheikh says, this is an ugly innovation. And who's the one who started that? Sheikh says Muawiyah is the one. He commanded for Ali to be insulted, and then that was taken as a practice. Why are we mentioning that? To insult Muawiyah? No, to crush your wrong understanding of things. As for whatever Muawiyah did, that's between him and his Lord. Had you not been saying the wrong judgment, we would have been able to afford not to go into these details. So, if you really want to protect his honor and the honors of some others, then don't say the wrong rule so that then this issue can die down. We don't have to talk about it. That's when we're not going to have to talk about it. When you stop saying the wrong thing. Sheikh says, أَلَمْ يَأْمُرْ مُعَاوِيَةُ سَعَدَ بْنَ أَبِي وَقَّاصٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ بِسَبِّ عَلِي. Didn't Muawiyah command Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, may Allah accept from him, to insult Ali? Bala, indeed he did. We gave the proofs for that already. Subhanallah. Far from imperfection is Allah. Al-jahlu yu'mi wa yusim. Ignorance blinds and deafens. Khatimah. Epilogue. Yani conclusion. قال الحافظ البيهقي ما نصه. Hafiz al-Bayhaqi said, quote, وفي كل هذا دلالة على أن الشافعي رحمه الله كان يعتقد في علي رضي الله عنه أنه كان محقا في قتال من خرج عليه. And all of this is evidence that Ash-Shafi'i, may Allah have mercy upon him, was believing that Ali, may Allah accept from him, was rightful in his fighting whoever rebelled against him. وأن معاوية ومن قاتله لم يخرجوا بالبغي من الإيمان. And that Muawiyah and everyone else who fought Ali did not depart faith by their rebellion. We're not making takfir on them. لأن الله تعالى سمى الطائفتين جميعا مؤمنين. Because in the Quran, Allah referred to two warring groups of Muslims as believers. وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا. If two groups of believers fought. وَالْآيَةُ عَامَّةٌ. This verse is general. It is applicable to Ali versus Muawiyah. وجرى علي رضي الله عنه في قتالهم مجرى قتال الإمام العادل من خرج من طاعته من المؤمنين. And so Ali, may Allah accept from him, in his fighting, he went the way of a just imam fighting whoever rebels against him and departs his obedience amongst the believers. وسار بسيرته في قتالهم وقصد به حملهم على الرجوع إلى الطاعة. Ali's goal was to bring them back into obedience. It's for them to go back to obedience, to retract their mutiny. كما قال الله تعالى, as Allah Ta'ala said, فقاتلوا التي تبغي حتى تفيء إلى أمر الله. So fight those who transgress, O believers. O just believers with the just caliph, fight those who transgress until they come back, or so that they come back. Hatta here could mean until or so that. Either one. Either way it works. Like what's in Qatru Nada. فَقَاتِلُوا الَّتِي تَبْغِي حَتَّى تَفِيءَ إِلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ. So fight those who transgress until, or fight that group that transgresses until it comes back to the command of God, which is being obedient to the Caliph. That's the 9th ayah of Surah Al-Hujurat. وهذا صريح في أن الحافظ البيهقي ما رفع عن معاوية في قتاله لعلي ما سوى الكفر. This is explicit. So, intaha, end quote, and the quote of Al-Bayhaqi. Sheikh says, this is explicit that Hafiz Al-Bayhaqi did not remove from Muawiyah in his fighting Ali anything but blasphemy, any level of sin but blasphemy. نفى عنه الكفر فقط. The only level of sin that he negated from Muawiyah was blasphemy. وَأَثْبَتَ مَا دُونَهُ مِنَ الْمَعْصِيَةِ. And he confirmed what's lower than the level of blasphemy for Muawiyah of sin, which is major sin. ثم قال الحافظ البيهقي أيضا ما نصه. Then Hafiz al-Bayhaqi also said, quote, ثم ولا بد من أن يعتقد كونه محقا في قتاله. Furthermore, it is only correct that it would be believed that Ali was rightful in his fighting them. وإذا كان هو محقا في قتالهم كان خصمه مخطئا في قتاله. And if it's the case that Ali is rightful in his fighting, then his opponent was mistaken in his fighting. This is the sinful mistake, though, that has evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah that there's no way to make a determination, to legally make a determination to fight the Caliph. وَالْخُرُوجِ عَلَيْهِ غَيْرَ أَنَّهُ لَمْ يَخْرُجْ فِي بَغْيِهِ مِنَ الْإِسْلَامِ. However, he did not depart by his mutiny from Islam. He did not depart Islam by his mutiny. كما حكينا عن الشافعي رحمة الله عليه. As we have cited about الشافعي, may God's mercy be upon him. في متابعته عليا في سيرته في قتالهم. In الشافعي's following Ali in his way concerning fighting them. Yani الشافعي's madhab, which is what we are following here. The Shafi'i school, in this case, is Ali's school. Shafi'i agreed with Ali, and he based all the rules about this issue on Ali's handling of the issue. He saw that Ali implemented the rules of the religion properly in this issue, and then he substantiated Ali's madhab in this case, and that's Shafi'i's school. Shafi'i school is not to say that Muawiyah made a legal ijtihad and he got reward for it. وَتَسْمِيَتِهِ طَائِفَتَيْنِ جَمِيعًا مُسْلِمِينَ. And Shafi'i, he followed Ali in calling both groups Muslims. انتهى. بعد هذا يقال لهؤلاء الذين ينتسبون إلى الإمامين الأشعري والشافعي. So after this, it is said to those who are affiliated with the two Imams, Al-Ash'ari and Al-Shafi'i, ثم يقولون في معاوية إنه اجتهد وله أجر واحد مقابل أجرين لعلي. They say, indeed, Muawiyah made ijtihad and he has a single reward against the two rewards of Ali, who also made ijtihad. It would be said to them, أنتم مخالفون لإمامكم في العقيدة أبي الحسن الأشعري. You people are against your Imam in the creed. We've already covered Al-Ash'ari's documents about this. Your Imam in the creed, Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari, you're against him here. وَإِمَامِكُمْ فِي الْفِقْهِ, and you're against your Imam in jurisprudence, in rules. Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, Imam al-Shafi'i. فَأَفِيقُوا مِنْ سُبَاتِكُمُ الْعَمِيقِ. So wake up from your deep sleep. وَتَوَغُّلِكُمْ فِي الْغَفْلَةِ عَنِ الْحَقِّ, and wake up from your indulgence in heedlessness and being oblivious from the truth. إلى الصواب, and come to what's correct. هذه نصيحة المسلم للمسلم. This is the advice of a Muslim to another Muslim. So Sheikh's not deeming those people as kuffar here. But to say the dust of Muawiyah's horse's foot is greater than Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, that's kufr. But if someone didn't go that far and he said other things, then he didn't commit kufr. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. That's it. We completed the bayan with a little bit skipped. Inshallah, maybe in the future we can catch the parts that we skipped. Do you have a question I can answer for you?
Hello?
Yes.
What do we think the thing about Muawiyah's being better than?
And what's that supposed to mean? Is figurative. I'd say, what's that supposed to mean?
They just say it just means he's better than him, or
like it means who's better. It means the dust is better.
No, it just like they're just. Hello?
Yes.
No, they're just saying that. They're claiming that Muawiyah's better than Umar.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah, that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. Is this not? But that doesn't prove that the statement is figurative, because they're saying if the dust from his horse's foot is better than Umar, then Muawiyah himself is better than Umar. So that's what they're saying. So that's not saying that the dust of the horse's foot is figurative. You understand?
Yeah, I get it. But is there something else they say also?
I heard that some of them say from his horse's nostril.
I
mean, Wafiq. One person, he sent me a message. He said, "You're talking bad about Muawiyah. I will refute you by voice." I sent him my email. He never responded. He said the caliphs like Umar bin Abdul Aziz, they used to flog anyone who spoke against Muawiyah. I said to him politely, "Can you share with me your reference, please, so that I can look into it?" He never responded. Don't let anyone pass stuff off on you. Don't be afraid to ask a person for his reference. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu khaira. Praise and thanks are due to Allah who enabled us to finish this bayan. I ask Allah Ta'ala to protect us and forgive us and to help us stand up for the truth. And I ask Allah to unite the Muslims and to eradicate this difference amongst Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah and bring all of the people of the Sunnah together under the truth And I ask Allah Ta'ala to remove the hatred and envy and arrogance from any of our hearts, and to forgive us and to admit us into the garden as brothers. Ameen.